Welcome to Dave Knows Ball on this January 23rd, 2025 episode. I appreciate you beautiful people joining us tonight. We have a good one in store. I hope you've been staying warm, guys. It's been cold across the entire really country. I feel like it really randomly in the southeast again. I'm from the coast of Mississippi. People in that I-10 area from Louisiana to Florida just getting snow on the beaches. It's wild to see. I'm sure you people have seen it. Everybody be safe out there. I mean, I don't know why daycare for my son today was canceled, but it's been canceled all week. I understand the first 2 days. I don't really understand the last 2 days, honestly, in my opinion, on Wednesday and Thursday, but didn't get a notification. So he should be rolling in tomorrow, guys, but I hope everything is going well. We got a good one in store for you tonight, guys. But remember, this episode of Dave Knows Ball is brought to you by our buddies, our new title sponsor, FANDUEL. Visit FANDUEL.com/SECU to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. Folks, got a lot to dive into tonight. Got a lot to dive into, folks. We're going to try to fix the CFP calendar. We're going to try to fix it. We're going to give some solutions. How can we get in here and kind of, again, I know it's not going down to 12. Again, my perfect number I've stated before, I like 8, but probably inevitably going to move to 14 and 16, as we all know. So we'll see. I'm going to give you some ideas. I don't have all the solutions. I'm not going to pretend like I do, like some do out there, but I'm going to give some solutions. We'll get right to that one. Midweek basketball review. We may have had the best Wednesday night of SEC basketball in a long time. I mean, they all came down to the last 5 seconds of the game. Arkansas, Georgia, South Carolina, Florida, and then Texas A&M, Ole Miss. Just down to the wire games across the board. It was a phenomenal night last night. It's a phenomenal league, guys. Again, if maybe not one of the best conferences in college basketball we've seen in at least 20, 25 years, since probably 10-11, that season when Kemba Walker kind of led UConn to it all. It's kind of what the year I see it as. But we'll talk a little college basketball. We'll talk a little weekend previews. We'll put up the graphic right now. Your boy undefeated in midweek. Got to tip the cap to myself here. Got to give a little golf clap there. Undefeated, 6-0. Only lost 12 games all year. Chris Phillips not too far behind me. Started a little slow. We've let him catch up a little bit. I think he's got about 15, 16 losses. We'll look at it when we bring up this weekend's predictions towards the end of the show. Then Cole Thompson, SEC's Unfiltered's own Cole Thompson. This one will probably get a lot of female listeners after I'm telling you who's going to be on here. We'll come and talk top 10 quarterbacks heading into the 2025 episode, or 2025 season, 2025 episode. It is technically January 23rd, but the top 10 quarterbacks in college football heading into the 2025 season. If you follow us, you better. I mean, first of all, let's shamelessly plug our guy, Cole Thompson. While, hey, the race to 20,000, guys, we're about 400, 500 away. I'd love for it to be at the end of this episode, but I don't think that's going to happen. We got a couple more to chip away at you to get some confidence instilled in you. But the race to 20,000 subscribers on YouTube, guys, go like, subscribe, hit that notification bell before we really buckle up in this episode. But Cole Thompson will be joining us probably at the bottom of the hour here, about 27 minutes. Pretty fired up to talk about that one. Let's go around the SEC, folks. Alabama linebacker Deontay Lawson will miss spring practice. Not a real shocker. Had the knee injury. Second to last game of the year in Norman. In Oklahoma. I mean, that was just a bad overall day for Alabama, but much less when you lose your leader on defense. Says he wants to come. He says he wasn't very accomplished as an Alabama football player and wants to go win a national championship before he headed out. We'll see. I mean, Alabama's got a lot of pieces back on defense. We obviously thought he would probably miss spring, but put some pressure on Justin Jefferson in the Colorado transfer Alabama just took as well at the inside backer spot. So a lot of things to work with, a lot of chess pieces to work with Kane Womack in that second season of that Alabama defense. Auburn expected to hire Chad Lunsford as the special teams coordinator. If you followed college football for a while, Chad Lunsford, former Georgia Southern head coach. He was at Auburn as like an analyst, I believe, from 09 to 12 when Gene Chizik was there. So he's back on the Plains. Former Georgia Southern coach is what most people remember him. I believe he was with Tom Herman most recently on the FAU, the Florida Atlantic staff. D1 baseball preseason prediction, preseason All-American team. A couple SEC players we'll keep an eye on. Again, really, Chris Phillips, Harrison Fant are going to drive you home on that one a lot, folks. From LSU, first baseman Jared Jones, the junior comes back, 301 last year. Base percentage 455, slugging percentage 747. Texas A&M, and we all know him, Jace Lavalette, the junior, 305, 449 on-base percentage, and 726 slugging percentage. On the bump, we got Ryan Prager coming back, redshirt junior, 2.95 ERA from last year. So 3 guys on D1 baseball's preseason All-American list. 3 SEC players: Jared Jones from LSU, Jace Lavalette from Texas A&M, and Ryan Prager from Texas A&M. So SEC baseball coming down the wire again. The SEC Unfiltered channel, guys. It's football, basketball, baseball season year-round. Again, baseball, February 14th, I believe, opening Friday night. We're going to have Chris Phillips, Harrison Fant coming on here, previewing, giving you their preseason predictions coming up. I mean, Paul Maneri, how's he going to do in Columbia his first year? Folks would love to hear that in the comments. Can Alabama with Rob Vaughn take that next step? Can Tennessee and Tony V and the boys go replicate it? Jay Johnson and LSU and Baton Rouge are going to have a good team. We know LSU, Texas A&M, new coach, are loaded. Jace Lavalette. Man, it'll just be a phenomenal. So Coach Schlossnagle down in Austin. We got that rivalry in college baseball now. So overall, it'll be fun to get it started in college baseball across the board. And then I saw something today on Paul Feinbaum. It was released. All right, got you right here. So Wall Street Journal article right here, folks. Most valuable college football. How much is your college football team worth? Now, this is according to Dr. Ryan Brewer, as you can see in the graphic, PhD from IU Columbus here. As you can see, Ohio State sits at $1.957 billion with a B. Billion with a B. We're all in billions here until we get to Oklahoma at 10 at $881 million. Again, I'm not going to pretend like I know all this, but I think he's just wanted to put a dollar amount on how much these teams would sell for. Again, this isn't how much teams bring in. Anybody who's just jumping on the show now and hadn't seen this today, been busy with their work day, I don't know, picking up their kids from their daycare. I'm jealous of you if you listen to the beginning of the show. But no, this is how much they think it's worth. Like the Dallas Cowboys are worth like what, $10 billion? Something like that. I think the New Orleans Saints are like $4 billion. I think the Los Angeles Dodgers, for other just kind of examples, I think it's in the $5 billion range. If I'm right, people correct me in the comments if I'm wrong on that. I think that's what it is. Just to give you perspective from an NFL professional franchise. I mean, again, the highest is Ohio State, $1.957 billion. But man, it's kind of interesting there. Let me read you what it says here. It says Brewer conducts this study by analyzing a program's finances and asking, what would it be worth if it could be bought and sold like a professional franchise? Brewer looks at the top line revenues, growth, and drivers of cash flow, and makes projections about the sustainability of the operation just as he would with any other business. Pull it up. Keep pulling it up for you right there. Oh, went down, dude. Sorry about that. Brewer looks at the top line revenues, growth, and drivers of cash flows and makes projections about the sustainability of the operation just as he would with any other business. It isn't a mere one-year snapshot either. He combed through years of data for 131 major college football programs, the heavyweights all the way down to Louisiana Monroe. Me and Chris Phillips were laughing about this earlier. Poor ULM catching a stray there. And then after breaking down everything from television viewership to trends in enrollment, his spreadsheet finally spits out the answer. So I was just reading that from the article of the Wall Street Journal. Again, this isn't really my neck. Just thought it'd be interesting when we're going around the SEC talking about this. Just interesting for that perspective. I mean, from an SEC standpoint, Texas comes in at number 2, probably really no surprise, $1.897 billion. Georgia, $1.348 billion. LSU comes in at 6 at $1.060 billion. Tennessee, just over the same there at $1 billion. A&M at $1.001 billion. You got Oklahoma at $881 million, Alabama $846 million, Auburn just under them at $843 million, Florida $793 million, and the Arkansas Razorbacks sitting there, an interesting number. Graphic courtesy of ESPN at $616 million, folks. So just interesting teams kind of bouncing around. We got some SEC teams in. Ohio State comes in at number 1. You see where Michigan is. And you see these rich, proud alums. I mean, Big Ten, folks, they got a lot of money too. We talk about it in the SEC, but the Big Ten doesn't. I know this is an SEC channel, but we do call things a spade there. But how about the Ohio State Buckeyes? $1.957 billion right there. $957 billion. Wow. All right, folks, moving on from that perspective. Let's try to fix the college football playoff, why don't we? Should we try and fix the playoff schedule here? I mean, look, it's like I mentioned, it's only going to go up. We've talked about it before in the show. I think eight is the nice cushion, the good spot to be in. I think that's the good spot to be in, but we're already above that. And they're not going back down. I think it's only going to go to 14. It's only going to go to 12. It's inevitable. So it's only going to go up. So how do we condense this season? I think you got to move it up a week to week 0, as we know it now. You got to move it up a week. I think it just is what it is. People, the coaches and stuff would be for that if we're moving up the whole season. Now, a lot of staffs don't want to go play week 0 because you're playing a week ahead. You don't get a shorter fall camp, but it's just, I don't know, most people don't want that. They don't want it that early in the season. But if everyone was doing it, they'd be forced to. So I think you just move it up a week. I think everyone would agree with that. No one's upset about that. I think this is easier said than done. The conference title games have to go away, and I think you got to start playing first-round playoff games that weekend. But the problem with this is the Big Ten and them would never agree with this. You know why? Because their contracts, their TV contracts are with the CBS now. Remember, this was the first year of the Big Ten and CBS. First year of the Big Ten and CBS. They're going to get away with that contract because, again, CBS doesn't get any of these playoff games right now. It's ESPN and ABC. Think about it. Fox does Big 10 and Big 12 games. They're not going to agree with that because they don't get a piece of the pie in the television deals with the games from ESPN and ABC. The SEC deals with them now. So the SEC would probably be fine with that. The Big 10 wouldn't. So that's why you have to somehow do away with title games, but you have to that won't be for a while though, because they're going to have to redo those TV contracts. And like I'm saying, CBS and Fox, who broadcast Big 10 games, would never agree with that. Therefore, the Big 10's never going to agree with that. It just is what it is, folks. I mean, that's never going to happen. I mean, if that wasn't involved and they brought in the ESPN, ABC broadcasted Big 10 games, majority too, I think Tony Petitti and them would agree to that to an extent, but no, that's just not going to happen. Now, some other things I think you could potentially work with the NFL to get one of these earlier Saturday. Remember the NFL's puts their playoff games, these wild card games, some of the divisional games on that like Saturday. I think if you talk to Roger Goodell in the NFL, you can maneuver that to work in college football's player. I think they would maybe give that Saturday up. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think you could negotiate with something because again, both these leagues need each other. The NFL needs college football and college football needs the NFL. You scratch my back, I'll scratch your back. That's how most people do business, folks. Let's call a spade a spade. And then finally, I think you got to play the national title on a Thursday. I know that's just a me thing. Monday, I'm done with it. Monday, I'm done with it. Come on, play it on a Thursday night. Hell, Saturday would be awesome. I just don't know if you could get it. But I like Thursday. Nobody likes a Monday night national championship game. I speak for the people when I say that. I know I do. What communist is out there want a national championship game on a Monday? We're so accustomed to it now because it's been that way since. I mean, when I went to the Texas-Alabama national championship out in Pasadena in 2009, 2010 technically, but the 2009 season, that was a Thursday night game. I remember the BCS era would have Thursday night games. I can't remember. Maybe someone in the comments can remind us. The Auburn-Oregon game with Cam Newton and them in the Fiesta Bowl, was that Thursday? Can't remember. I know where I was at though in college. It was a snowstorm, but I can't remember if that game was on Monday or Thursday. But those are some things I would kind of maneuver. I think you could, and let's take away a bye week. Again, I see some people are like, no bye weeks at all. This is a physical, very violent sport. Again, I know some people may argue that because of the targeting rules and stuff now, but it still is. It still is. You're never healthy after your first practice. Anyone that's ever worked in college football, played college football, will tell you that. After the first practice, you're never 100% again until the end of the year. Or not the end of the year, until probably spring ball. But I mean, maybe bowl practice, depending how long you have off. But I think you can't. We don't need 2 bye weeks. I will say that. I'll meet you in the middle. You have to have a bye week just to get even a mental break. But you don't need 2. So I think we can meet in the middle of 1. So again, no need to stress about teams. That's outside our control. But we can move up the season to week 0. Take away conference title games. Again, we have to figure that out. I need help figuring that out, guys. I would love to hear you in the comments. I just think we got to get away with it. But I do know what's going to hold us up on that. The TV deals, as I mentioned. The SEC will be fine because their games are broadcasted on ESPN and ABC. Like I mentioned, who broadcasts the college football playoff games? ESPN and ABC. Who broadcasts Big Ten games, folks? Who's been listening? Who was taking notes earlier as I was preaching on this? Who broadcasts Big Ten games, folks? That would be now CBS. That's Gary Danielson. That's Gary Danielson and Brad Nessler. That's the former SEC guys. And then you have Joel Klatt and the boys doing it on Fox. Again, they don't get any of that piece of the pie to do the broadcast of college football playoff right now. So they're not going to agree that. We would have to figure that out. I'd need help figuring that out for sure. Then I think you can work with the NFL. Again, I think both parties can scratch each other's back to figure something out where maybe the NFL would adjust maybe some of their playoff games to let college have one of those early Saturdays that when they start in January, when the NFL starts broadcasting their wild card divisional type games. And like I said, we got to play the college football national championship game on a Thursday. I mean, what are we doing? What are we doing? That's the one that's despicable. It's despicable. But moving on, guys. Moving on. Let's get to some college basketball for our guy. Cole Thompson, about 14, 15 minutes. Again, going to talk top 10 quarterbacks coming back in the 2025 season. He'll even talk some honorable mention guys. I'm going to poke holes in some of it. This may even be him right here. Nope, he's checking in. I'm just sending him the link right here. But no, he'll be on in about 14, 15 minutes. So let's get into a little review of the midweek action in basketball. Again, guys, we had 6 games. 6 games. We had a couple bye weeks. We had a couple midweek bye weeks. So, again, I kind of like the setup at times on the 3 on Tuesday, 3 on Wednesday. Good for reaction. In case you've been missing the reviews or the reactions, I highly suggest to go do it. Again, go like, subscribe, go to the SEC Unfiltered channel, click live, see the SEC basketball reactions every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Saturday night, reacting to all the action. My guy, Big Pat, Dave, he's coming into Peachtree City here soon, brother. We're going to go get some lunch. We'll get a cold one. It's my favorite Auburn fan right there. My favorite. Pat, do you live in Auburn, by the way? Let us know in the chat room. Maybe you don't want to give out your address, but let the people know where you stand. Just quickly reviewing this again. If you want the in-depth reaction to it, go to Tuesday night reactions and then Wednesday night reactions for those games. But starting on Tuesday night, Alabama got the 103-87 win. Definitely got a much better performance from Alabama at home after their last home performance against Ole Miss about a week ago. Big bounce back for Alabama right there. They put together 2 solid wins. I think Vanderbilt's a potential tournament team right now. I've tweeted out today. Who do you have more confidence in making the tournament, folks? Vanderbilt, Oklahoma, Georgia, or Texas? Who do you have more confidence in? If you rank them in order for me. Rank them in order for me. I'd probably go. I'd go Georgia, Vandy, Oklahoma, Texas. I'm just not high on Texas. I don't know. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But Alabama gets a big home win, 103-87. I mean, Vanderbilt wouldn't go away, though. Give Mark Byington and their first-year staff. They do a phenomenal job. I mean, even if they don't make the tournament and it kind of falters, because, again, it's going to be tough to collect. It's going to be tough to collect wins in this league, especially on the road. Vanderbilt has some tough road games. Bama gets a big one. They had to have it. Bama had needed to go 2-0 this week. Again, they got to finish the job Saturday night in Coleman Coliseum against a struggling, reeling LSU team. But if there was ever an easy week in this league, it was this week for Alabama. 2 home matchups, Vanderbilt, LSU. You'll be double-digit favorites in both of them. Pat says he lives in Phoenix City. Appreciate you letting the people know, brother. Tennessee gets a rock fight of a 68-56 win over Mississippi State on Tuesday night. This game feels like a long time ago, doesn't it? But again, Tennessee's just the ceiling offensively scares me, and that's why I don't think they're an ultimate national title contender. I think realistically, they're just going to have to contend for the top 4 spots in the SEC. And I know that sounds wild, and I'm not saying they couldn't beat Alabama. And we'll talk about if they can get it done this weekend against Auburn. But the ceiling there sometimes. This is a big win. You gotta win at home against a top 15 win. 2 teams that struggle offensively at times, but man, it's road grader. It's tough to get anything going for these teams when you play them defensively. Just overall, though, I mean, it's Zakai Ziegler, Chaz Lanier. I mean, that's what it is. Chaz Lanier put up some shots, made them. As Rick Barnes said last week, he's paid to make shots. That's what we pay him for. We're talking about Chaz Lanier. He did that on Tuesday. State just again, inconsistent offensively, 56 points. But Tennessee, 68-56 win. Now they head to Neville Arena to face a fresh Auburn team who did not play midweek. Texas getting a 61-53 win in the last game of Tuesday night's action. Texas had to have it. They got it. and they got a big one at home against Texas A&M this week, this Saturday in the mood. Hashtag bless the mood for you Texas people sitting out there as the culture king, right? Or what is he? What's Matthew McConaughey's name? The culture code coach or whatever. I forget what his name is. But against Missouri, I mean, Missouri just got ranked in the top 25. I think they're a little, I don't know, are they a little overrated? I think they are. Again, they force a lot of turnovers. They're going to be hard to beat at home. I mean, they already beat Kansas at home. They got they show they can go beat good teams on the road, though. They went and got the job done against Florida last week. I mean, they handled an Arkansas team somehow, some way. We'll talk about it in a minute. Got a win over Georgia last night. But Missouri, I mean, feisty, edgy team. I mean, Dennis Gates and them have totally bounced back from the defeated season of going 0-18 in league play last year. But no, I thought they were due to drop one. It was a bad spot for them. Again, Texas has scores. I mean, their whole entire offense is either Trey Johnson or Arthur Kaluma going off. They run no sets with Rodney Terry. Again, this was a must-win game for Texas. They had to have it, and Vegas agreed with me. That's why I picked it. It was one of my picks that I got, 6-0 this week in midweek picks. That was a surprising one. But Texas, big win for them. They got a big one against Texas A&M. Missouri host Ole Miss in a big one. Two teams kind of in that same tier right there. Florida, going. Sorry about that, folks. This was an ugly game for Florida, but somehow, you will take a road win. Again, I mean, Auburn could have potentially lost there. I mean, Nick Pringle missed 2 free throws late. That was the game. Janai Broome went out, I think, with 13 minutes left in the game, 14 minutes left in the game. So they played predominantly the whole second half without him. I mean, South Carolina was in it at Vanderbilt. So South Carolina, you don't watch them. You're like, man, what a terrible team. They do what losing teams do. They find ways to lose. And I totally expected them to find a way to lose that game. Florida just Elijah Martin and the boys getting it done, man. I mean, wasn't pretty. They host Georgia. Mike White heading back to his former employer, but Florida gets the 70-69 win. Texas A&M buzzer beater there. How about Manny Obaseki, 3-pointer late in the game, 63-62 win. I mean, how A&M and Arkansas both won last night, I don't get it. I mean, they played A&M was down predominantly 8-12 most of that game, which is not where they want to be. I mean, imagine Notre Dame, Riley Leonard being down 21-3. I mean, we kind of saw that against Ohio State, but that's not where you want to be. If you're a running football team and you're trying to stretch the field and you're down 21-3 and you don't really have an explosive passing game, that's kind of what A&M is. I mean, they rely off Wade Taylor, Zedrick Phelps to shoot threes, and they're the best offensive rebounding team in the country. I mean, they're the best with Henry Coleman. What's my guy's name? And Anderson Garcia does a really good job crashing the board. They all do, man. The Minnesota transfer does a phenomenal job hitting the boards. I mean, they all do. So that's just kind of what they do, and they somehow just stole one in Oxford. And Ole Miss, after beating Alabama last week, has now lost 2 in a row in overtime at Mississippi State and at home to A&M down to the wire. Could easily have won both. This is a really good basketball team. They got a big one at Missouri this week. Ole Miss, A&M heads to the Moody Center to try to sweep the Longhorns. And then I don't understand this one at all. I do not understand this one at all, folks. Somehow, some way, Arkansas gets a 68-65 win over Georgia. Literally stole one. I mean, Georgia was up 12 at half, just melted down in the second half, turnovers, similar to Ole Miss. I mean, very similar basketball games there. Just a 2-point differential there. Arkansas, they had to have it, though. I mean, you could tell it was almost like they won one of those November Thanksgiving tournaments. They needed that for the conference. They're now 1-5 in league play. You could even tell post-game, and I understand it. Even Cal was relieved. He was really relieved. You could tell post-game. It really was affecting them. They needed that. Again, Boogie Flan out with the hand injury. They're down to 8 scholarship players. Said they had to go back and watch FAU film from Nelly Davis, from him transferring over. Remember, people just joining us now that football season ended for basketball. Go like, subscribe, first of all. And then second of all, Nelly Davis transferred from FAU, the former Nelly Davis point guard that took FAU to a Final Four. He is now at Arkansas. He hadn't been playing a lot, and when he hasn't taken advantage of his minutes. They went back. Maybe he's the point guard they've been. I don't know. Again, I don't think you're going to make it through a whole season. I mean, I hear Cal post-game saying, let's flip the script and make everybody, let's shock everybody. You're only going to have 8 scholarship players for the rest of the year. It's going to be tough. I mean, just game to game, you get in foul trouble. But they had to have this one. They had to have this one. They host Oklahoma on Saturday. That's another one you feel like you got to get. You got to get 2-5. That's a streak. We call that a streak. They needed that one. I really don't know how they won. I mean, they shot with like 30-something%, like 18% from beyond the arc, 32% from the field. Georgia's got to feel like that's a very disciplined. It's a loss you don't want to have on your resume. Because, again, I think Georgia's going to make the tournament. I love Asa Newell. I love Blue Kane. I love Silas Demery. I even like Tyron Lawrence, the Vanderbilt transfer. RJ Godfrey, the Clemson transfer down in the front court, fits well into what Mike White wants to do. Those are the losses you can't have, though. I mean, Arkansas, talented, yes. Very low in numbers, though, and were winless in the league play. They were 0-5, really struggling, and you may have got them right, potentially. I'm not totally thinking they've switched it around. Hell, you'll see who I have them picked when they play Oklahoma this week at Bud Walton. But that's just a little bit of the midweek slate. See if Cole Hurd, we'll get him in here, see if he's in the waiting room. Get him in here. We'll check out the league standings before. Let me share the screen here while we wait on Cole to join us. So here we go, heading into the weekend. Auburn sitting at 5-0 in conference play, 17-1 overall. Alabama 5-1, sitting at 16-3 overall. Let's stop right here for a minute. It kind of feels like it's the state of Alabama or bust who's going to win the SEC, right? Kind of feels that way. I mean, like, again, I don't think anyone can really amount many losses in this league right now because, I mean, Auburn's not going to lose many home games. If any, maybe one, and that would be a stretch. Even Alabama's going to have to – I think Alabama's going to have to win out right now for a bit. I mean, I think they're going to have to win out all for the next 2 weeks because you can't get too many games behind. And then the benefit for Alabama, I mean, going into this, if you want to catch them, because that Ole Miss loss could really hurt Alabama down the wire, is like you do get a chance to beat Auburn twice. As tough as the game will be at Neville, you get an opportunity, and that's all you can ask for. Florida sitting at 4-2, 17-2 overall. Tennessee 4-2, 17-2 overall. And here's the 4-2 wave, folks. Ole Miss 4-2, 15-4. Missouri 4-2, 15-4. A&M 4-2, 15-4. Folks, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams tied at 4-2 in this league. That's really where that bulk of the – that's why I think it's just going to be these two really competing for it. And I think Tennessee can hang in it if they beat Auburn this week. We'll preview that one after we talk to Cole Thompson about his top 10 quarterbacks heading into the 2025 season here in just a moment, in about 5 minutes. But as we look at these SEC basketball standings, as we stand on January 23rd, Thursday night, before we head into the weekend slate, Tennessee feels like they have to win this week. And I'm not going to preview it right now, but you get to kind of knock the giant off, give them a loss. Because, I mean, if you lose, you're sitting at 3 losses, they're undefeated. It's essentially your back 4. You're out. I mean, Florida almost was eliminated with a loss to South Carolina on the midweek, but I really think it's going to be an Auburn-Alabama battle right now. And I asked that going into the conference play, folks. I said, would you take Alabama and Auburn or the field to win the SEC regular season? And again, that's not really fair. It's not really 14 teams. Because again, I don't think any of us think South Carolina, LSU, now Arkansas are really competing for the league. So it's really like, do you think Alabama, Auburn, or Florida, Tennessee, Kentucky? I mean, that's really maybe. So it is what it is. I said I would have taken one of the state Alabama teams, but overall, moving down past the 4-2 teams, sitting at 3-3. We got 2 tied teams: Mississippi State 3-3, 15-4. Vandy 3-3. Mark Byington, them sitting at 500. Impressive year in his first year, coming over from James Madison, 15-4. Georgia 2-4, tied with Texas at 2-4. Georgia's 14-5. Texas 13-6. Oklahoma and LSU both 1-4. Oklahoma 14-4. Remember that the hot non-conference start actually came into conference play undefeated until they headed to Tuscaloosa, took their first conference loss, and again, only conference win of the season so far was against South Carolina at home. LSU 1-4, 12-6. Arkansas 1-5. We talked at notch their first conference win against Georgia last night, 12-7 overall. And South Carolina sitting still with the goose egg, the big donut right now at 0-6, 10-9 overall. But like I mentioned, I don't really feel like I'm watching a bad team when I watch South Carolina. That's how good the league is. It's how good the league is. Donovan says, this isn't a battle. Auburn will win the league by 3 games. Not too – Donovan, I know you maybe you were over-exaggerating there, but I don't think that's the over-exaggeration. I really maybe don't think you're that far off. I mean, it'll depend. Like, Alabama's going to have to go win Saturday, obviously, against LSU. They're going to have to go win in Starkville next week. That's a tough game. You host Georgia at home. Georgia's sneaky. They got young talent. If you play bad and could turn the basketball over 21 times like they've shown they did against Ole Miss, yeah, Georgia could beat you. They could on a given day. But I think Alabama would win that. You go at Arkansas. It's a game you feel like you can get. You should get. It's a road game still. And then you get Auburn. So I think Alabama's going to have to go win like 5-6 straight. And in this league, that's a tough ask, especially going on the road to Fayetteville and Bud Walton, which, again, did last night flip that switch for Cal and the boys. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm not a full believer. Maybe you'll see my predictions here after we get off with Cole Thompson. Speaking of Cole Thompson, guys, most you know him is the Bear. There he is, and he's Sunday Fun Day show right now. Cole Thompson joining us. Cole, appreciate you joining us, hopping on tonight on Dave Knows Ball. We got some things to discuss with you, man. You know what fires people up, Bear? You know what fires people up more so than putting beans in Texas chili?
God, stop it! I'll get off the stream right now to continue this nonsense.
Hey, you know what fires people up more than that conversation in politics is quarterback rankings, and that's why we brought you in.
Mine are perfect, by the way. We all know it. You can go ahead and lie to yourself, but you know deep down inside that they are perfect.
Bear, well, let's hold on. Let's bring it on. Hold on. Let's bring it. I got the graphic for us. Look at the beautiful face right there. That's a guy I would go to war with right there. Thompson's top 10. Bear, initially, just what comes to mind, the overall just quarterbacks in general heading into the 2025 season? Just universally give us, you think it's going to be a good quarterback season, good quarterback draft class heading into next year?
Let's start over the fact that I don't think that there is a wrong top 10. Depending on how you go about it, I think that there is a guaranteed about 16 to 17 guys that you can interchange in some capacity to where you believe that is the proper top 10. So my list is one list. I've seen many out there where you overrank some players, where you're going based off of potential, where you're going based off of upside, proven production. Like I had two rules when it came to this. Rule number one, you had to at least start 2 games in 2024. Like the fact that Arch Manning's on this list is because he did start 2 games. So that was rule number one. Rule number two, you had to be a power 4 quarterback. There's a lot of G5 quarterbacks that I really do like, but then there's 2 guys that I really did like. Darian Mensah, who transferred on into Duke, and then John Mateer, who came on this list at number 10. Yeah, Wazoo is not a G5 program, but they are not at least the same level as what they were when they were underneath in the Pac-12, because they played a Mountain West Conference schedule. So those are my 2 rules. I want to give a shout out to a couple of guys that I just left off this list. Diego Pavia from Vanderbilt. Sawyer Robertson from Baylor, Rocco Beck from Iowa State, Jake Retzlaff from BYU, Fernando Mendoza, who's transferring on into Indiana, Kevin Jennings at SMU, and Luke Altmaier at Illinois. Those were my guys that I left right off along with Darian Mensah. So I believe any one of those guys, and if you want to throw in maybe a few others like on the outside looking in, like Taylon Green for his upside, I could get behind that. But I feel like that what you're going to see is a big transition period where a lot of these guys are either going to be based off of hype, based off of proven production, or more importantly, based off of potential. And so what I try to do with my top 10 is go based off of proven production, what I think they're currently at, and then build off of what I thought they could be later on. So that's why I have John Mateer at the very bottom and Kate Klubnik, who we'll get into in a little bit. Why I have him at number 1, just based off of proven production and potential upside.
As you know, Bear, we are an SEC channel. So the first guy that sticks out to me is none other than the Bayou favorite, Garrett Nussmeier, checking in at number 2 in Thompson's top 10 quarterbacks heading into 2025. Bear, what are some things you like, but what are some things that concern you with Garrett? Again, this is a guy that's been around the sport his whole life. He's a veteran in college football now. Probably one of the few, the proud, that stayed at one school for a while. But break us down what you think about Garrett Nussmeier, the potential and maybe the floor of him heading into next year.
All right, so Nussbus for me, when he plays on point, could be the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft. He could be a guy that you build your franchise around, because there have been so many drives, so many moments, so many plays that when you look back and you just say, ice in his veins, delivering on point. There's also so many drives when you look back and say, oh my God, I wonder why he was a backup for so long, because if he still is making those mental mistakes. The thing that is really going to make or break Garrett Nussmeier next year is his mental processing and his delivery. How many times did we watch him on exponential drives have bonehead plays inside the red zone and turnovers? The turnovers have got to come down. Last season, he had 12 interceptions. He had 3 fumbles, if I'm not mistaken. but he also had a completion percentage of 65%. He was one of 3 passers to finish with over 4,000 yards. He was number 2 in the SEC in passer rating. He was number 2 in the SEC in completion percentage. He was number 2 in the SEC in passing touchdowns. So everything is there for him. And by the way, this is a better arsenal. You're saying goodbye to Kyron Lacey and CJ Daniels, but you're welcoming in Berrien Brown and Nick Anderson. And Nick Anderson was a freshman All-American, and Berrien Brown is the reason why Ole Miss is out of the playoff. Because if he doesn't catch that 4th and 6 ball from Brock Vandagriff, Ole Miss wins that game, and they're in the postseason. So you're adding those 2 in along with what you bring back in Xavier Thomas, in Chris Hilton, in a few other guys. You bring in Bowers, Sharp. Your offensive line, I think, is going to be still stable. It's another year in Joe Sloan's system. I think that's going to benefit him. There were so many moments last year where you watched him deliver and he was unfazed and he acted like he was a veteran. The ice in the veins mentality, the alpha, I'm a football dude. I understand the position. I'm really good at what I do. Like the 4th and 5 play against Ole Miss is still one that stands out to me. And it goes, this guy has everything to be the right leader for the team. And then you also see the overtime touchdown pass to Kyron Lacey. Like all you had to do was get 5 yards. You say, nope, Burts, let's deliver a strike. Thread the needle. And then you go back and you look at that bowl game performance. Like Baylor was one of the better teams in the Big 12 to close out 2024. They were on a hot streak. They won their last 6 games and they won 3 of them by double digits. And you just picked apart that defense. That's what I'm getting into. And I think that when you look at what he brings back, another year in the system, the weaponry, the fact that he understands what Brian Kelly is looking for, the fact that he also knows that he has to step on up because there's a backup that's going to push him in Michael Van Buren, which is a really good thing for LSU. It just feels like all the pieces are there that if I'm getting the top version of Garrett Nussmeier, I'm going based off of straight potential. This is the guy that can win the Heisman Trophy. This is the guy that can take your team to a college football playoff. This is a guy that can take you to a national championship. But I also am realizing if he does end up playing like the version that we saw at times, especially in the Alabama game, this is a guy that's going to be benched at the midway point of the year for Michael Van Buren.
Barrett, what do we think? Lenore Sellers, big kind of surprise. Yeah, I mean, I would say surprise year, especially kind of. I thought he made most of his plays, a lot of it off improvisation. I think Dow Loggins leaving to go be the head coach at Appalachian State will be good for him. I like the fit with Mike Shula. Some people may disagree. Again, I think we saw some of that in the Illinois game, but I think that was a little bit more they missed Rocket Sanders. So I think that's something that they're going to have to help Lenore Sellers with, and that's a little bit outside of control. They're going to surround him with some good weapons. But your thoughts on him and his growth potential with Mike Shula is it's his job now coming into this year. It's like he should feel comfortable, a leader of the team. Do you think he takes that next steps? If you have any concerns, what are they?
The turnovers are a little bit of an issue. I mean, the fact that he had that big red zone turnover against Clemson in the Palmetto Bowl was a big concern to me. But at the same time, I think that when you look back at the numbers, especially in the Illinois game, like everyone's going to talk about the Cheez-It Bowl, and it's like, okay, well, yeah, he didn't have the best performance. Part of the reason why he didn't have as great as a performance is because they didn't have a stable run game. One of the biggest things that allowed the Norris Sellers to flourish was the fact they had a stable run game. And I like that they're bringing in Rasul Faison. He had over 1,100 rushing yards last year at Utah State. Mike Shula, I get the reasoning why you brought him in as your OC, especially for Lenore Sellers, because there's going to be a lot of people that will compare Sellers' game to one Cameron Newton. And I'm going to be completely real. I hate it. I absolutely hate it, because if I am somebody that does not buy into certain players ever getting a comparison to, one is Cam Newton, one of the single greatest seasons we've ever seen in college football down in the Plains. But I will admit the play styles are similar. The fact that he's so mobile, the fact that he is able to maneuver outside the pocket, the fact that he has such a cannon of an arm, and the accuracy has got to be improved, but he's single-handedly able to put his team on his back and deliver clean performances day after day after day and put himself in a position to where South Carolina benefits from him as the starting quarterback. Well, who was Cam Newton's offensive coordinator in the year he won the MVP? It was Mike Shula. So I think that that's a really good fit. You look down the stretch about where South Carolina was. You're not winning 9 games. You're not going on a 6-game winning streak without Lenore Sellers being the backbone of your team. And think about this for a second, Dave. In all games except for the Texas A&M matchup, he had a completion percentage of over 64%. He had 3 interceptions, 1 red zone interception during that span. He also ran in 5 touchdowns. He averaged 6.2 yards per rush attempt. And he also carried the ball 14 times per game. That was the average. if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 14 times per game. So you're getting a guy that you know is going to be a dual threat player, a true dual threat player. He's got the physicality that you want to be able to bring out in the open field. He can tuck and run, and he can go ahead and bulldoze over somebody and use the hit stick and say, "Oh, look at me. I'm punching my way into the end zone for 6 points. No problem whatsoever." He also, I think, is going to improve as a passer. I think having a full year now in the offseason to build that relationship with Nick Harbor and Mazio Bennett and some of the younger guys they have. Donovan Sellers, his little brother's coming on in. They already know how to play football together. So what if Donovan's actually ending up being the X factor for this team? And South Carolina now, they have a stable run game. You bring in Jordan Dingle, who I think is going to be a very underutilized tight end, or was an underutilized tight end in Kentucky. He will be a properly utilized tight end in this system because Mike Shula loves the tight end position. It's still the same schedule. I think that when you look at a guy like the Norris Sellers, the potential is New York City, Heisman Trophy, 10-win season, going to Atlanta, making the college football playoff, maybe winning a playoff game. But I think that when you look at him, he's untapped. That's the beauty of the Norris Sellers. If you told me today that I get to pick a quarterback to build a frame around, maybe not the entire intangibles when it comes to the passing style or the mobility, but just a frame, 6'3", 240, and that speed, Norris Sellers is the epitome of your prototypical quarterback. And today's game, especially when you don't have the stable offensive line, you better have a quarterback that can move. Norris Sellers can move. And more importantly, he is not afraid to tuck and run it and deliver the crushing blow into the defender. So if I get that version moving forward, there's a scenario where I think that he could be the overall top quarterback and not just the SEC, but college football next year.
I see we're again, people can't see this because I'm very proud of our new title sponsor, FanDuel, by the way, is blocking number 5, but it's DJ Lagway, so a Florida Gator. So overall, our guy here, Cole, has 6 SEC quarterbacks here in the top 10 college football quarterbacks heading into the 2025 season. First of all, go give our buddy at Mr. Cole Thompson a follow over on the old X app, Twitter app, whatever we still call it here. But Bear, I got to ask you here, as we can see, well, FanDuel blocks it a little bit, but I'm telling you, as we can see, DJ Lagway sitting at 5, Nico Iamaleava sitting at 6 for the Tennessee Volunteers. Obviously, you like Lagway a little better. Was it? Maybe it's not. What was the gap there? And obviously, me going into the season, if I'm saying, hey, Cole, who are you taking to lead your team, Nico or DJ right now, heading into 2025? Obviously, your rankings tell us DJ, but was it a hard decision?
Kind of. Here's the thing. Nico, I don't know what I'm going to get next year because when you look currently, part of the reason why Nico had so much success is because of, well, you could trust the run game. You have Dylan Sampson. He was the backbone of your offense. And again, that's not an insult to what Nico didn't do because Nico down the stretch was not the problem. Tennessee never played a 4-quarter offense all year. And that was either the play calling or that was the inconsistency when it came to the wide receivers, the drop balls, the inability to have great pass protection. There was always a fault with Tennessee to an extent. It always felt that way. So for me, when it comes to Nico, now we don't have Dylan Sampson there. We do have good running backs. We have Deshaun Bishop. We have Peyton Lewis. We just got Star Thomas to come on in from Duke. But I need you to take that next step forward. I still have questions when it comes to the wide receiver room. I get Mike Matthews. I think Mike Matthews is a stud. I've talked about it many a time. Mike Matthews was my favorite wide receiver that nobody was talking about going into the 2024 cycle. I thought he was right up there with Cam Coleman. I thought he was right up there with Ryan Williams. I thought he was right up there with Ryan Wingo. There was a clear separation between Jeremiah Smith, and that was evident based off of the national championship of the season that he had. Like, that is a clear separation between the two. But I thought Mike Matthews was right up there. He wasn't utilized this season, but that's your guy. That's what you got right now. You got Sorrell, you have Brazel, you have a couple of young guys coming on in, but you didn't add anybody in the portal. When I look at DJ, the way that I view DJ right now, and it's kind of funny, it's like whenever you see a movie trailer and you think that you know the entire plot, and then you sit down within the first 5 minutes, everything changes based off of what you thought that you knew. Like, that's DJ Lagway for me going into next year. I think I know what I'm getting from him, but maybe I don't. He's more mobile than we give him credit for. He's got better accuracy than we give him credit for. He was making some plays that were just beyond measurable. But then he was also having some drop balls by wide receivers. The pass protection was inconsistent. The run game, they were stopped at the line of scrimmage, so they had to force him to start throwing. He was playing in the system for a long time. It wasn't like for 6 games where it was a rotational style where he would come in every third drive. So now he has an entire offseason to get comfortable. We may see a version of DJ Lagway that I got to see up close and in person in Willis, Texas, when he was leading all of Texas high school football en route to becoming the Gatorade Player of the Year. I mean, he has mobility. He is great behind the line of scrimmage. He is able to create separation and be able to deliver strikes down the field. He mentally processes at the line of scrimmage and does a great job of pre-snap motion. He has great accuracy. The intangibles on this kid are through the roof. And when I look at Nico, I still think that there is something there. I think that his accuracy got better throughout the season. I think his precision got better. I think his decision-making got better. I thought he did a great job of executing, especially during the postseason. It wasn't his fault that wide receivers dropping balls. Like, anybody was going to lose to that team down in Columbus, Ohio. Anybody on that Saturday was going to lose that game. So I'm not going to go into too much detail with that. And then you don't have your best asset because if he's dealing with a hamstring injury, you were already down now the count before the game even started. So let's just start there. I still believe that Nico Iamaleava can be one of the best quarterbacks in college football next year, especially because if he has some intangibles that are just not teachable. But so does DJ Lagway. And I think that you're going to see a little bit more of that mobility step on up next year. I think you're going to see him create acrobatic plays behind the line of scrimmage that allows him to be able to flourish. I think that you're also going to see DJ be one of these players that is building a relationship in a way with these wide receivers that are coming on in, whether it be Trey Wilson or whether it be the Dallas Wilson, the 5-star that decided to commit at the very last second.
And then JT Sturdivant.
Yeah, JT Sturdivant. There'll be some wide receivers to where they're building a rapport where if the offensive line can at least have stable protection, Jaden Ball on the ground, Florida has an offense that can rank top 20 in almost every single category. There's a reason to believe in that. And I think that the fact that he's already had the buy-in from the players, like people treat him down in Gainesville like he is a 2-year veteran. He is a starter that has earned his stripes. They believe that he is the difference maker. Why am I going to doubt that? Why am I going to doubt now an entire offseason knowing that you're QB1, building this relationship with several young players? You're going to see a bigger role from Aiden Mizell. You're going to have a healthy Trey Wilson. You're going to have a more stable run game with Jaden Baugh taking on over from Montreal Johnson. You're going to have a year to work another season with this offensive line, 4 returning starters. It's hard for me not to buy into what I'm seeing. There's a lot of questions that I have with the supporting cast around Nico versus the supporting cast around DJ. And if you're going simply based off of upside, I think that there's just a little bit more I like about DJ's status right now than I do Nico. Nico, honestly, I probably should have bumped down one more spot and have Sam Levitt up because I'm going to be completely real. Sam Levitt was one of the toughest evaluations for me, and I still think that he is just scratching the surface for how well he can be as a player.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you talked about we thought he was a top player, top quarterback Texas saw. I mean, some of that was his ability, and some of it was Texas played a couple of backup quarterbacks, especially in their first start. Speaking of Texas, speaking of the Red River rivalry, Red River shootout, we're going down to 9-10 here. Arch Manning for the Texas Longhorns and John Mateer coming over from the Washington State Cougars with his OC Ryan Arbuckle to Norman.
Ben Arbuckle.
Ben Arbuckle trying to save Brent Venables' job essentially. But what do we think here, Bear? What's kind of I know going into last year we all hated this early talk about Arch Manning and like the whole Quinn Ewers deal. Now we can officially pull the curtain down. We can talk Arch. He is going to be the starter. Bear, what's kind of your feel like for this now that it's officially like this is happening? It kind of felt like we always waited for the Floyd Mayweather Manny Pacquiao fight. Now we're getting to see it. Like, what's kind of the reaction to it now as we head kind of into spring ball with him as the full-time starter?
Yeah, I'm going to pride myself for a minute. I don't like to ever gloat, but I remember last season I told you, I told Chris, I told everybody on the channel, let's temper our expectations with Nico Iamaleava. Like, I'm not saying that Nico is not going to be the guy. I'm not saying that Nico won't impress. But so many people want to say he was going to win the Heisman Trophy. He was going to throw for 415 yards per game. He was going to have 35 touchdowns. He was going to have the highest completion percentage in the SEC. He was the reason why Tennessee was going to be a playoff team. And then he had a good year, a very solid year for a first-time starter. And yet people were like, oh, he's overrated. I'm not doing that with Arch. I think Arch has everything that you need to be the number 1 quarterback in college football next year. If you tell me that Arch Manning throws for 35 touchdowns, 3,700 yards, he rushes for 450 yards and 6 more scores, he has a completion percentage around 67%, I'll buy into it. You tell me that he leads Texas to the number 1 seed in the college football playoff. He's in New York City, potentially hoisting up a Heisman Trophy, unlike his 2 uncles. I'll buy into it. But I got to see it. There were still multiple throws and multiple drives and multiple moments throughout the season when he was starting that he made some errant plays. I mean, there were several throws where you're like, that is a rookie mistake. And it's because he wasn't comfortable in the system. He's going to have an entire offseason to learn the ins and outs of being the actual guy for Sarkisian. The thing that people were always so crazy on was that he was going to leave in the portal. He was going to go elsewhere. He was going to be somewhere. Guys, that's not the Manning way. This isn't about a Steve Sarkisian or battling with Quinn Ewers thing. It's a Manning trait. Every single player from Archie to Cooper to Peyton to Eli, when they invested into one coach that said, I believe in you to your fullest potential, I believe that I'm the reason that I'm going to get the best version out of you, they're locked in. And so now he'll have that time to prove why Steve Sarkisian is the right guy. He already knows the ins and outs of the offense. He already knows what Sark is looking for. They're going to elevate the play calling because of what he can do compared to Quinn Ewers. But I want to see it. That's my entire point here. If you end, like, I've seen so many lists say Arch Manning, number 3, Arch Manning, number 4. And you're going to give me that when I have proven production from Cade Klubnik, from Garrett Nussmeier, from Sam Levitt, from Drew Aller. Like, I understand where you come from, where the potential is, but we don't even know what it could be. And that's where I'm kind of at. And it's not the same offense. I mean, Dave, they lost 4 starters on the offensive line. No more Gunnar Helm. No more Matthew Golden. No more Isaiah Bond. You already saw Jonte Cook enter the transfer portal, and now he's looking for his 3rd school. They're losing talent. There's some young names that are going to be really promising players. They added in the number 1 wide receiver in the state of Texas in Crockett. Like, I really believe that this Texas team is not going to miss a beat next year. But I need to see it actually unfold throughout practice. I need to see it throughout camp. I need to see him continue to grow. This potential that I've seen is amazing. But still, I just got to see a little bit more of it. John Mateer, I'll tell you what, John Mateer to me is probably one of the guys that I believe will be the biggest risers in here. He is probably worth 2 wins for Oklahoma. Like Oklahoma, you could say, oh, they're a 5-7 team. No, they're a 7-5 team because of John Mateer's coming on in. He is already going to be able to teach the offense to the new guys because if he's learned it. He understands it. He mastered it. I don't care what level of college football you play at. G5, Power 4. The fact that you have 45 touchdowns and 15 on the ground, that's worthy of top 10 status. And the fact that you also already know what the offense coordinator is looking for because you worked with him last year out in Pullman, that already gives me an upper hand. I question the wide receivers. I question the offensive line. But the beauty about John Mateer is that he can run the football. He can easily utilize his legs to pick up first downs. He can continuously expand drives outside the pocket. He's got a good arm. He's got a quick release. His tempo, his decision-making is through the roof. I just have to see it at a P4 level. Like, if you tell me that he ends up leading the SEC in passing yards and he pulls like a Taylon Green where there's like several really good throws per game and one bonehead one, I could buy into that. I think that he is one of those players that when you look at on paper, he is as advertised. I just want to see it translate on over to the SEC because I really do believe that at the end of the day, he could be a reason why we're talking about Oklahoma not being a team that makes it to the college football playoff, but very similar to what we said about Arkansas at times, very similar to what we said about Missouri at times, maybe even Texas A&M. They can win a game that they're probably not supposed to. They can probably keep things interesting or close, and maybe they'll get to 8-9 wins next year if you include the bowl game.
Again, folks, Cole Thompson, one of the best out there, our SEC football contributor out there. Give him a follow at Mr. Cole Thompson. Bear, before we let you go, again, 6 quarterbacks in this top 10 list of Thompson's top 10 quarterbacks heading into the 2025 college football season. 2 quick questions for you, Bear. I guess 3, 2 and 1. All right. Nationally, 1 through 10 in this list. Highest floor, highest ceiling, lowest floor.
Highest ceiling, lowest floor.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll do 2. For just SEC.
No. You can do 1 through whoever you want. 1 through 10.
No, I'll do 2. That's what I'm saying. I'll do 2. I'll do just straight up SEC. I still think that it can be. I think it's DJ Lagway, personally. I think it's highest ceiling, lowest floor. I think it's DJ Lagway, personally. I think that
No. I'm saying individually. Who has the highest ceiling you think out of them, and who has the lowest floor you think out of them?
Lenore Sellers has the highest ceiling because if he gets better as a passer and he gets the accuracy down, we are talking about a Heisman Trophy winner. And I'm not saying Heisman finalist. I'm saying winner. The way that Cam took over games, the way that Joe Burrow took over games. His mobility is phenomenal. His physicality is phenomenal. His ability to read defenses and not be afraid to tuck and run is phenomenal. I just got to see that he is able to continuously make the right reads. Lowest floor, I think it's Cade Klubnik. I really do. Here's the thing. Tell me how many quarterbacks threw for 300 yards against Texas's defense last year.
What, one?
One, K. Klubnik in the playoff. That first drive where he was able to control the tempo, the rhythm, and was able to build that rapport with TJ Moore, with Bryant Wesco, with the tight ends, with Phil Moffitt out of the backfield, and you throw in his mobility, I think it's through the roof. It's another year in the same system underneath Garrett Riley. He's already built the relationship with Antonio Williams, with Bryant Wesco, with TJ Moore. They have a run game that is still stable, but it's not at the same level as it was last year because Phil Moffitt went off to the NFL. The offensive line, I think, is going to be better next year. He has the mobility, and he is not afraid to go ahead and utilize his legs, whether it be behind the line of scrimmage to create second chance opportunities for his receivers to get open or tuck and run. The game against Pittsburgh, he averaged a 75 completion percentage, and he also ran for 2 touchdowns. He was the single reason why Clemson won that game and went to the college football playoff. We have got to start giving a lot of respect to where K. Klubnik is. He's one of a handful of passers. He's coming back next year as the number 2 returning passer in passing touchdowns. He's number 2 in total touchdowns behind John Mateer. And he's number 3 in passing touchdowns, only behind Garrett Nuss. I mean, he's number 2 in passing touchdowns, only behind Garrett Nussmeier. Everything that you really want is in K. Klubnik. He could be a dude. And don't sell me on this thing about like it's ACC. It is literally, you put him in the SEC, you put him on a roster like South Carolina's, he'd be just as talented. You put him at Tennessee, he'd be just as talented. The pieces are there for him to be one of the best in college football. And I think that's honestly my difference between him and Garrett Nussmeier and why I have 1 at 1 and 1 at 2. Like week 1, QB1 and QB2 are going against each other in Death Valley. I'm really excited for this matchup. I'm really excited to see what K. Klubnik can do in year 3 of Garrett Riley's system.
Yeah, I'm trying to sell Chris. That's the game we need to go to week 1. But no,
we're going.
I agree with you, Maryland or Sellers. I would go highest ceiling. And then I'm a little split at time. Drew Aller or Nico would probably be the lowest 2 floors for me. And you could sell me on both, but give me probably Aller if you really pulled my ear to put one out there. But Bear, I appreciate you joining us, brother. Again, Cole Thompson's top 10 quarterbacks entering 2025. Again, go give him the follow, Cole Thompson at Mr. Cole Thompson. You can check him out on our channel at the SEC Unfiltered channel. He is at Texas Sports Unfiltered all the time. Bear, anything else you want to add here coming up? Again, you're now Bear's carrying the torch for us on Sunday Funday as well.
I really hate that I didn't put Diego Pavi on here. Like that was my only gripe.
That's a closing argument.
Man. I really want to put him on.
People here, dude, they're done.
I really want to put him on this list. Like honestly, and I got in an argument today with somebody. They're like, why did you have Diego Pavi on here? And if I honestly look back and I just say in my heart, go for the guys that I've actually seen play, John Mateer would be at 9, Diego Pavi would be at 10, Arch would be off the list because I'm still waiting for him to show it. Like, if I can make any argument for Pavia, because the dude is awesome. Like, he is. And he's such a unique player because there's only a certain style of offense that he fits, but it's the one that's being run out at Mandy. And they added back in Eli Stowers, and they still have a stable run game, and he fits the option. Like, there's so much to like about
you know what to defend.
You have no idea what to defend. And here's the crazy part. He just plays with this moxie and mentality of I'm better than you, and I know I'm better than you in every single way. And so I want that dude to be my quarterback. Like, I really like the 2 things I regret is Sam Levitt not being a little bit higher. Because honestly, that's the quarterback that I would start my franchise with simply based off of attitude and actual size along with Lenore Sellers. I think if you ask me what type of quarterback I'd want to run my system, Sam Levitt may be the right answer for me. And then not putting Diego Pavi in the top 10. And it's only because of Arch does have a little bit more of an upside. But damn it, I really wish Baba Yaga I would have stuck to my gut and put him in number 10.
Yeah, it's just how you're grading off like a pro potential or like a solid college quarterback. Yeah, I mean, biggest difference maker, most valuable player for sure. He's in the top 3. But no, Bear, I appreciate you joining us tonight, brother. I will check you out. I'll holler at you tomorrow, man. You have a good rest of the night. Hey, sounded like one of those dogs you have, dude. We're disagreeing with your take about Arch Manning earlier.
Yeah, Paisley's pissed off at me right now. She just does not. She wants her food. She hasn't eaten yet, and so she's like, "I'm hungry." Because I came on this, so she's like, "It's 7:30." It's like, "Dad, where are you feeding me?" Because they got to feed the wife, and then I got to feed the child.
A little bit more about where you had Arch Manning, right?
No, she's probably upset that I have Drew Aller at number 8 when I probably shouldn't even have him in the top 10. Bye-bye.
Someone disagree after the Notre Dame game. See you, brother. Again, guys, Cole Thompson joining us. to break down his top 10 quarterbacks heading into 2025. I appreciate him taking the time. Go give him the follow at Mr. Cole Thompson. Cole, one of the hardest working, best college football personalities out there. Again, love the guy. He does a phenomenal job across the board. Up next, folks. Up next. Let's look ahead. Let's make sure I got it. Yeah, let's look ahead to this weekend's action on the hardwood. And let's bring up some discussions in it. Again, we're right at the 8 o'clock hour, but I'm going to take you to about another 15 minutes if you'll stay with me. There's 600 of you listening live. We're talking about the best conference in college basketball. Let's hold steady. Let's get into some let's preview it. Let's talk about it. Leading us off, Mississippi State at South Carolina right now. Saturday, January 25th, noon Eastern, across the board. Kim Palm right now has this as a Mississippi State 72-68 win. So take that as you may right there from our buddy over at Kim Palm. Again, we don't have the lines out. As you know, college football comes out there a little sooner than regular. We got Texas A&M at Texas on ESPN2, 2:30 p.m. Eastern. Right now, Kim Palm has this as a 70-69 win for Texas A&M. Number 9, Kentucky against Vanderbilt, ESPN, or at Vanderbilt on ESPN, 2:30 p.m. Eastern. Right now, what does our buddy over at Kim Palm have this as? He has this as a Kentucky 86-83 win across the board here. Georgia at Florida. Remember, Mike White going back to his former team right now. That is currently, he has that as a 78-67 win for the Gators. That game will tip off at 3:30 p.m. Eastern in Gainesville. Ole Miss at Missouri, number 16 versus number 22. That's it's an under the radar big game right there, folks. I mean, it really is across the board. It's a pretty big game across the board. Ole Miss, they have Missouri getting a 73-72 win. They have this as a close game. Kim Palm does. I mean, it's really not too surprising, honestly. Oklahoma at Arkansas on ESPN2 at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Let's go here. They have this right now. Kim Palm has this as a 76-73 Arkansas win. And then the big one, which we're about to get right to, just naming it right now, Auburn hosting Tennessee, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. He has this as a 76-68 Auburn home win. I mean, we're really not that surprised. And finally, LSU at Alabama. It's another 8:30 p.m. tip-off, I believe, on the SEC network right there. Right now, Kim Palm has this as a 90-74 Alabama win with a 92% chance of winning. So really not too shocked from that perspective. Let's take that down and let's get to the predictions, folks. These are the official predictions before they even go out on social media. But you're welcome. All weekend slate. I told you, Mississippi State at South Carolina, Kentucky at Vandy, Texas A&M at Texas, Georgia at Florida, Ole Miss at Missouri, Tennessee at Auburn, LSU at Alabama and Arkansas, or Oklahoma at Arkansas, folks. As you can tell, I'm about to break down why I have these picks right here. Chris Phillips sitting at 30-16. I'm sitting there at 34-12. Did not lose a midweek game, guys. I'm undefeated in this week right now. We're 6-0. We're about to go 14-0 after these 8 wins. But let's get right to it. Mississippi State at South Carolina. Dangerous game. How does South Carolina get up off the mat after a tough loss where they should have won? They led most of the game against Florida. Mississippi State coming in after a little sloppy performance at Tennessee. They're going to be on the road twice this week. Again, at Tennessee early in the week, at South Carolina now. I think Mississippi State gets a close win. I think it's going to be a close win. Obviously, Chris agrees with me. Again, we'll post this on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter X tomorrow. We'll get this out here, so I'd love to hear your comments in there. But I have Mississippi State taking this one home. Kentucky at Vanderbilt. Memorial Magic happened 2 times in a row against Tennessee last Saturday and against Kentucky. Vanderbilt coming off a loss to Alabama. Kentucky had the midweek bye. They took a loss to Alabama. Both teams coming off losses to Alabama. I think Kentucky bounces back, though. I think Kentucky plays well here. They're going to feel refreshed. There's always someone that steps up offensively. I think they're just going to be too much for Vanderbilt. I like this one. I don't think Memorial Magic strikes twice. Chris agrees from that perspective. Texas A&M trying to sweep the Longhorns, heading to the Moody Center. # bless the mood, as our guy Matthew McConaughey would say. Well, I want to get out and see the mood. I want to go see the mood. Texas, we both have Texas A&M. I just think I think Texas A&M is just a tougher team. Again, the thing that would concern me picking them is coming off as you heard Buzz Williams say coming off the floor last night, I mean, they had the latest game of the night on the road. Texas played a day before. It's a Texas home game. Again, though, I mean, I lived in College Station, worked at Texas A&M football. Remember, everybody who's new to the show, I worked in college football for 9 years, a lot of time in the SEC and the college football recruiting departments. My point being, I drove to College Station a lot. I had some college buddies who lived in Austin. College Station to Austin was at an hour and 45, 2 hours. It's a bus trip. So Buzz is over analyzing a little bit. I think it's more of a shot towards, Kirby Smart. A lot of these coaches thinking Texas has got gifted a kind of a first year in the league. But obviously that's not the case in basketball. I just think A&M's a tougher team. They'll out-rebound them. If Texas were to win, we would have to have a big game from their front court. And again, I don't like the offense. It's the Arthur Kaluma, Trey Johnson show. If one of them do not play well, it takes a lot. I think Caden Shedrick would be the X factor if Texas were to pull this off. Just A&M, I don't know if they'll sleepwalk because, again, it's Texas. You're trying to sweep your in-state rivalry. I just think Texas A&M gets it done. It should be a good one. The Georgia at Florida. Mike White making his return again for the third season to his former employer. We both got Florida. I think a little bit of a wake-up call, learned in the hardest way, but in a good way. I mean, you took the win, but it was ugly in Columbia for Florida. I mean, Todd Golden's kind of got to be like, we won, and I have my team's attention. Coaches like that, folks. They like ugly wins where they can go get their team's attention without it affecting the W and L columns. I think they bounce back. Again, and Georgia had a loss to Arkansas. That's one of the worst losses of the Mike, probably the worst loss of the Mike White era when you factor in what it meant. Again, Georgia's not anywhere close to being a lock to this tournament, man. That's a bad loss. I know Arkansas is talented. That's a bad loss to an 0-5, now 1-5. They got their first win against you team in the SEC. So I think Florida's just, how do you get off the mat, man? That was a late Wednesday night game. You got to go take it on the road to Florida. That'd be a big boy win right there, but I think Florida hangs on. Ole Miss at Missouri, probably the more underrated matchups in the league. It's a top 25 matchup. I think Ole Miss gets off the mat. This is the test of the Chris Beard DNA and the Mark Adams. And you had the Manny Obaski 3 late. It was a heartbreaking loss. Heartbreaking loss there. But you got to get off the floor and go play a team. It likes to force a lot of turnovers. They're obviously better at home like most teams, but really for Missouri when they're in Columbia, Missouri, for Dennis Gates teams, I think this is a really close game. Ole Miss gets a very big emotional win. I mean, Ole Miss has lost 2 in a row after beating Alabama. They need this one. You can't lose 3 in a row this year, folks. You really can't. So, but I think Ole Miss gets the win here. Chris would agree with me there. Then the big one, College game day will be there. Reese Davis, Jay Billis, Jay Williams, and the boys. Tennessee at Auburn, the Bruce Pearl Bowl. Obviously, Bruce Pearl used to play there. Stephen Pearl, an assistant for Auburn, played there for his dad. Does Janiah Broome play? We'll see. We'll see. Tennessee coming off a big win at home against Mississippi State. Dropped a bad one at Vanderbilt last week. I think kind of took a little bit of the juice out of this game. But I think Tennessee's got to win this game to really compete for the SEC regular season title. I mean, they have to. I mean, this would be their third conference loss after losing to Florida and losing to Vanderbilt. And you only play Auburn once this year. So you'd essentially be 4 games back because you'd have 3 losses. Then Auburn owns the tiebreaker. Auburn's not losing 4 games, folks. I think Auburn's going to lose. Maybe they're at 4, but again, you wouldn't win the tiebreaker. I think Auburn's realistically going to lose maybe 2 to 3 games. I don't think they're going to lose a home game. And if they lose one, if you're Tennessee, it has to be you. You have to go get a game on them. This is a must-win for Tennessee and Rick Barnes if they want to repeat as the SEC regular season champions on the hardwood. But I don't know. I just like this matchup for Auburn at home. If this was in Knoxville, if this was at the Tommy Bowl, I'd feel a lot different. But Auburn at home, you just can't go against them. You can't, even without Janiah Broome. Who knows? Bruce Pearl just kind of made it seem it was day-to-day. He started practicing today. I saw Stephen Pearl was on the next round yesterday talking about it. Like he practiced, it seemed like this afternoon. They see how it would go with him. Do they need Janiah? Yeah, they'd love to have him in that front court. I mean, they'd love to have him. I don't know. I just past the victory for Tennessee. Tennessee can just the offensive ceiling and how suffocating this veteran Auburn team can be defensively is It's different. It's different. I don't see a lot of offensive success for this team. I mean, I think Chaz Lanier and Igor Milicic. I think Igor Milicic's going to have a big game for Tennessee to win. If you told me Tennessee won this game, I would say Igor Milicic has to have a big game. He's the X factor. If Tennessee wants to get to San Antonio ultimately, which, I mean, bigger picture than just this one game, they're going to have to get better offensively. Can't have these high 50, low 60-point nights. Overall, though, again, that front court battle, Felix Okapara, and Cade Phillips, those will be key as well against Dylan Cardwell, and I think probably the most improved player in the entire conference in Chaney Johnson taking over for Jalen Williams. I think Auburn gets the job done with or without Janai Broome. I just think it being at Auburn prime time, that place wills them to victory. It's literally like a sixth man. That's why I say it's a must win for Tennessee. I don't think they get it done. And then I think we're just staring at each other. It's a state of Alabama race with Auburn having the nod right now. It's going to be Alabama or Auburn. Like I mentioned, I challenge people. I mean, I'll say this right now. Is it the SEC or the field in the national championship race? I brought that up a little earlier. Marinate on that as we're starting to wind down this episode, folks. I want to ask people that. Is it the SEC versus the field in college basketball? I mean, I kind of think it's a fair statement. I mean, outside of the SEC, I think Duke can win it all. I think Iowa State could win it all, but Iowa State's so much better at home, and they get a little inconsistent on the road. And then I think Marquette potentially could. And I think out of the SEC, 3 teams who could win it all: Auburn, Alabama, and some may call me crazy, especially after the performance last night in Columbia. I think Florida. If Ruben Chinyulu and Alex Condon can keep going, I like Florida there. So I would love to hear the comments on that. The SEC or the field right now to win the national championship. Now, weight Auburn heavy now, too, and I'd weight Alabama heavy. I like Alabama's value right now. Alabama probably has the highest ceiling in the entire sport. So we'll see from that perspective. I think Auburn gets the win, though, here in the biggest matchup of the day, especially nationally. LSU at Alabama. Again, this was Alabama's kind of easy week. I talked about it, 8:30 p.m. Eastern on the SEC Network. Nothing's easy in this league, but you get Vanderbilt at home and LSU at home in 1 week. You got to hold serve, especially if you want to get a number 1 seed. I think really only 2 teams have 1 seeds locked up. I think that's Auburn and Duke, and I think we have the rest of the sport competing for the last 2. I think Alabama's in that conversation. I think they get a big home win. I think LSU, not great. Matt McMahon, not great. Again, not bad, just on the road. This is a tough matchup. And then finally, can't see it, the FanDuel sponsorship before we get going, guys. But it is Arkansas at Oklahoma. Chris is going to Arkansas, and I'm going to Oklahoma. It's just a total kind of feel type situation with me right now. I can't tell you why. I don't believe Arkansas is going to go mimic it. I really don't. I really don't think they're going to go mimic exactly what they did the other night. I'm not a believer in it. I think this is kind of a one deal thing. I think the way Cal acted the game was a little different. I don't know. I want Arkansas to be good. Georgia lost that game more so than Arkansas won. I mean, anybody you listen to watches college basketball or knows that, but it's like, how the hell did Arkansas win that game last night? And again, I think people forget in sports a lot. Most games in all of sports are won more than they're lost. Again, pitching, errors in baseball, turnovers, lack of a pass rush, giving up explosive plays in football, basketball, turnovers, missed free throws, critical situations. Most games are won and lost. They just are. Who makes the least amount of mistakes? That's how it is in sports. That's how it is in life. I mean, we know that. I mean, you're a smart person. There's 750 of you listening to me right now. So you know where you're supposed to be. I'm not a believer in Arkansas long term. I don't think they bounce back with only 8 scholarship players. Give me Porter Moser and the boys. Get one of the bigger wins of the day in the SEC. So there you have it. Chris Phillips sitting heading into the weekend 30-16. Myself, Dave Shoemate, 34-12. We both have Mississippi State over South Carolina. We both have Kentucky heading to Nashville and getting a win in Memorial over Vanderbilt. We both have Texas A&M sweeping the Longhorns this year, first year in the SEC. We both have Florida getting a big win at home over Georgia. We both have Ole Miss getting, I think, one of the more underrated games nationally, and especially in the SEC, Ole Miss and Missouri. Ole Miss getting a win in Como. We both have that. We both have Auburn getting the headliner big win against Tennessee at home at Neville. We both have Alabama beating LSU, and we're split here. So we're divided on one game. Really, I'm taking Oklahoma at Arkansas. He's taking the Hogs to make it 2 in a row, folks. But before we get out of here, got to keep bragging about our buddies over at FanDuel. Guys, we have NFL playoffs again. Now, college football season's over, but I'll tell you what, NFL season is not. And from the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel takes the NFL playoffs to the next level, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's $300 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same game parlays, and so much more. Plus, when you win, you'll get paid instantly. Just visit FanDuel.com/SECU today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/SECU. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sports book partner of the NFL. Must be 21 plus and present in the select states. For Kansas, an affiliation with the Kansas Star Casino, or 18 or older and present in D.C. First online, real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expires 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut, or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Guys, again, our new title sponsor, our buddies over at FanDuel. But guys, that was a fun episode. That was a fun episode. Fired up to bring it to you guys. Remember, Dave Knows Ball every Monday, Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. We pushed the show up an hour as we did from the fall. Again, I mean, what didn't we talk about here? We talked about how we can fix the college football playoff schedule. Highly encourage you to go back and listen to that one. We reviewed a hell of a Wednesday night on the hardwood, Tuesday night as well, a hell of a midweek action in college basketball. We previewed what is to be a phenomenal 8-game slate on Saturday coming up, headlined by Tennessee at Auburn. I think Missouri, Ole Miss, and under the radar when we talked about all that. We had Cole Thompson, our SEC football contributor, talk about his top 10 college football quarterbacks heading into the 2025 season. We talked everything. I mean, we got Deontay Lawson's back next for Bama. Auburn hired a new special teams guy, D1 baseball preseason All-Americans. Remember, we're about 3 weeks from tomorrow, college baseball. We'll have Chris Phillips, Harrison Fant giving you the best college baseball content around, especially from the SEC. How much was your favorite college football team worth? Go check out that article I went over when we went around the SEC, that Wall Street Journal article, guys. But for your host, Dave Shoemate, guys, I appreciate you joining us. I'll see you, like you sickos, you SEC Unfiltered sickos who listen to all my college basketball reactions. I'll see you Saturday night. But the rest of you guys, I will see you Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern for another episode of Dave Knows Ball. Again, guys, this episode is brought to you by our buddies over at FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com/SECU to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet, guys. But for Dave Shoemate, I hope you have a phenomenal rest of your week. It's Friday tomorrow, folks. Have a phenomenal weekend.